You obviously, with Pat Torpey, replacing Pat, you're stepping into big shoes, as we talked about before. But this is not the biggest shoes you've ever stepped into before. Obviously with Genesis, you stepped in for Phil Collins, which that's jumping from size fives to clown shoes almost. I mean, those are massive shoes to fill. Talk a little bit about that experience and I guess, this is a two-parter. One, talk about the experience, but two, is there any part of that where you're even a little bit overwhelmed, even if it's just at home the day before you go to the studio the first time, where you're just like, oh my God, it's Phil Collins. He sold 200 million records or whatever. Now I'm stepping in here. Is there any of that kind of nerves that goes into your mind?
Well, of course, especially when I got to the studio the first time and I walked down the little hallway to his drum room and it's just lined with all the platinum records and stuff. And then you get to the Stone room where he recorded so many of their tunes in their own studio in England. Yeah, that was pretty, the Gretsch kit there. It was, right. It was mind blowing, to be quite honest with you. Listen, man, I never in my wildest dreams expected that to happen. Phil Collins was my drumming idol as a kid. Anybody who knows me, that's who I look up to the most. I knew every Genesis song backwards and forward. I learned how to play drums quite a bit from that man. And to the fact that I even got the call to send in more music to see if, this could actually happen. And then they flew me there to audition was like, how is this even possible? Because no one ever expected him to quit and to move on from Genesis, right? So this, it was just crazy how it all worked out, especially with that particular band, because they were my favorite band growing up as a kid. So again, I just never expected it. So it was totally overwhelming. I had done a lot of stuff, so I kind of know how to behave and act in certain situations, and I could be faking it, on the inside, right. But that's kind of what I did. And those guys are super mellow. Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks were really just low-key, mellow guys in the studio. It wasn't like there was any weird pressure or the vibe was strange. They were just sort of quiet and hung out and gave me their opinions on what they wanted to hear. And I would go and I'd play, I'd come back and they go, yeah, try this, cool. They didn't say play like Phil. They wanted me to play like me.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, once we got started and the music started, it was just like playing with another musician friend. It really kind of eased quickly after that. But those initial moments, especially when I first got in the studio and I shook their hands for the first time, I'd never met them before. It was like, huh, wow, I really like that record you made. It was that total Chris Farley thing from Saturday Night Live when he's interviewing Paul McCartney. It was sort of like that. Yeah. So it was crazy and super fun and just what an experience.